to Healthy Perspectives with Jeremiah, a podcast that brings you current social and cultural issues through a clinical lens. Hello. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. We will do our best to make sure it is a good use of time. Today, however, I am going to do the most boring podcast you'll probably ever find. Now, why do I say that? Because it's the most common feedback that I get. And I am actually going to give you an opinion today, a clinical opinion for that matter, like one where you might need to look at yourself and go, oh crap, I suck. All right. That's what I'm going to do for you today. So thank you so much for joining us on this most boring podcast you're going to probably find out there. This all stems from one reality. My most common piece of feedback is that I'm boring. Boring means not interesting. Not interesting. Why would I not be interesting? Well, we're going to take a look at why I might not be interesting here in this podcast. See, as a podcast host, it's super important to me that I don't waste your time. And so I need to take a look at myself and say, okay, why? Why, Jeremiah, do you suck at this podcasting thing so stinking much? Why are you boring? And well, most of the time when I get the, hey, you're boring thing, it's followed by this, you don't even tell us what your position is. So I'm going to tell you my position today. My position today is I actually don't suck. Actually, my position today is most likely if you're telling me that I suck, it's because you in fact suck. Let me explain. The topics that I have covered since March, just like the last week or so of March, the topics that I have covered. And I'm not doing an all-inclusive list, but let me take a look at just the topics because these are boring podcasts. I've looked at religious extremism. Boring. Okay. Damaging cultural judgment. Things like, what would happen if Jesus showed up an LGBTQ AI plus rally or gathering or event or whatever it's going to be called? What would happen? That's boring. Oh my gosh, that's boring. That was just the last podcast, by the way, those two topics. What about violence? Do you think that violence is boring in your community? I mean, another mass shooting. Another, kid dies because, there was a gun that wasn't locked up. Oh, that's just boring. Oh, gang violence, boring. Empathy's boring. We know empathy is boring. That's why I do the you're the problem segments, because empathy is so boring. Looking at something like, Trump and Caitlyn doing their little battle back and forth when they met on CNN, boring. Okay, love is absolutely boring. Going back many months, I didn't even put this in my notes today, but if I go back many months, I did an entire series on love, helping those who don't understand love very well, which by the way is probably most of you, because love is a very difficult topic to address. For those of you who want to go ahead and go look, but oh no, wait, hold on, time out. I know my sarcasm is coming through thick today. But learning how to love better, sorry, Jeremiah, that's boring. Yep, I know it's boring. That's why I did it. Okay, weaponization of phobia, calling people transphobic, homophobic, any other phobic, any phobia. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's boring. Why is this important? Look, I'm only like 6 or 7, something like that into my list, but guess what? I got like 10, 15 more to go. And that's just going back until March. We're in June. So, let's see, March 20, April 20, May 20, 3 months 3 months tomorrow. Okay. 3 months tomorrow. That's how far back I went. 3 months. All right. We've got the rise of histrionic disorder, the idea of narcissism, trans women in sports, or trans men, trans in women's sports. I hit that topic, but that must be boring. Why? Because wait a minute, these things aren't boring. You know what else isn't boring? Drug use. That's not boring. Border control or lack of control is not boring. These are things that affect your life. And if you think this is boring, this is the content that I've addressed. And I've done it from a clinical lens. Why do people out there think that what I'm saying is boring? Oh, I'll get to that. It's because, like, a little hint, it's because in fact, you're boring. I will walk you there. Hang in there. Okay. Let's go with effective argument strategies. Any of you ever been in a relationship with somebody? If you have, it's not a boring topic. It's an important topic, not boring, important. Very big difference, right? Why do we say it's boring? Oh, we will tell you. All right. Free speech, boring. It must be boring. Impacts of incremental change, like the ripple effect or the butterfly effect. That must be boring, because the feedback that I get is my topics or my podcast is boring. And all I'm doing in my podcast is addressing these topics and addressing them in a way where I am not giving you the answer. I am helping you discover the answer. So let's just keep going. How about leadership? Must be boring. Reality and fantasy? Holy geez, that's boring. Ask anybody who's, got somebody in their family, a friend who's got an issue determining what is real from what is fantasy. I mean, super boring. AI must be boring. All right. Now, I know I'm being sarcastic. I'm not naive, but I'm coming at you hard for a reason, because I'm going to walk you through what's actually going on here. All right. Relationship manipulation. Boring. Mass shootings. Boring. Echo chamber. Confirmation bias. Boring. Except here's the problem. None of these are actually boring. None of them. Not one of these things is actually boring. I could go on and on. That just goes back 3 months to March. I could go on and on with the topics we have covered here and explain to you in detail why religious extremism is not boring, because it leads to spiritual abuse. But you could go back and listen. And if you want to dig into the content, by all means, let's go. Let's have a conversation. If you want to tell me it's boring because I don't give you my opinion, well, here's my opinion. My opinion on each of these topics isn't my objective. I don't want to be like you. I don't want to create an echo chamber, also known as a prison, where I hear all the things that I want to hear. My opinion reflected back to me through other people. That's not what I want. I want to live a life. I want to have a life. So to that, I say, my objective is to help you see the echo chamber you're in. If you look at me and you say, healthy perspectives, that is actually really boring. Most likely, it's because you want to know if I am in or out of your group. Am I in your echo chamber? And if you can't determine whether I'm in or out of your echo chamber, you can't confirm your own bias. Therefore, I'm boring to you. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people have created their own prisons, their own echo chambers. And if they want to determine if I fit in there and I don't, or I do, or worst of all, the worst of all is you can't tell. Well, then it's hard to judge me. So what do you do when you want to judge me? You tell me I'm boring. You say, that's lame. You didn't even tell us what your opinion is. And to that I say, and this is where I get to tell you something today, I'm giving you my opinion. That's your crap. That's your stuff, not mine. I don't want to live that way. As a counselor in this world, it is not my place to put my crap on you. So I come in here and I try really hard to make sure I don't put my crap on you. And what do? You put your crap on me. Well, guess what? There's a beauty in that. Since I don't often give my answers, you're left having to answer it to yourself. Therefore, if I'm boring, it's because you have nothing to offer. Because if you had something to offer to the content, you might come in and maybe leave a comment that says, hey, religious extremism is a problem. And to that, I can say, yes, I agree. That's why I did a podcast on it. I agree it's a problem. But if you have no content to offer besides that, well, I already did that part. Maybe you could come in and talk about some type of a religious persecution that has happened to you or to somebody that you know. And we could dig into maybe some of the problems with the religious extremism. But that would require that you have content. And unfortunately, you don't. Why do I know that? Because my content is boring to you because it doesn't include an opinion. So you have nothing to offer. Same is true for, reality and fantasy. It's boring because you have nothing to offer. Histrionic disorder is boring. Why? Because you have nothing to offer. Yeah, I'm putting the gauntlet is thrown. Do me a favor. Come at me with some actual content, some real content. I'm not just talking about a good old, hey, I've got an opinion. Although that would be better than the you're boring because you don't tell me your opinion. At least you have an opinion. If it sucks, we can point at it and go, hey, this opinion probably needs a little bit of work. But you don't even have an opinion. This is classic projection. So what am I doing as a little return volley? I'm identifying it. I could go through my opinion on all of these. In other podcasts, I haven't given you all my opinions, but in other podcasts, I have outlined some things you should have opinions on. And let me tell you something. Every time I say you should have an opinion on this, it's because I have formed what I would consider an opinion on it. And I do it in a very strategic way. I get informed first. I gather information. I process that information. Now, the information that I gather is not from an echo chamber like most of you probably listening to this. I actually look at other people's echo chambers, not just my own. Why? Because if I'm just going to my own echo chamber, which, by the way, go ahead and follow me on Twitter and find out. You look at the people that I follow. I got people from all over the spectrum in my followings category. Why? Because I want my echo chamber to give me a varying set of opinions, thoughts, ideas. Why would I want that? Because I don't want to have your echo chamber. I don't want to be lumped in only to the left side, the right side, the LGBTQ side, the religious side. I want to understand the different perspectives. Hence the name. For those of you who were following me on YouTube or Rumble, you just got to see my name is prominently displayed behind me. And my logo which is looking for a path in this world to something that's going to have deeper, more fruitful outbursts of love and care and kindness and all of that kind of good stuff, which, by the way, is possible. But not if all you're going to do is project onto me. So, in my opinion, you suck. If you think I'm boring, it's because you suck. Now, I'm not saying like I'm not normally a name caller. I'm actually doing that because for those of you who think I am boring, you're not listening to my content. You're listening for an opinion. You saw some reflection in the mirror and decided that there was enough energy there to give me the feedback that I'm boring. Well, that's your crap. That's you not putting yourself out there. That's not me not putting myself out there. If people ask me my opinions, I give them opinions. Absolutely. And behind the scenes, I'm doing that a lot. If you want an opinion, ask, what's your opinion on this? And I will straight up tell you that Jesus would not be welcomed at an LGBTQ rally or gathering. And Jesus would also not be welcomed at many of the extreme churches. Period. The end of the story. That's an opinion for you. But if I do that in that particular podcast, I prevent you from looking inside the mirror and saying, I wonder what I think about whether he would be welcomed. I wonder what I think about empathy. I wonder what I think about that relationship where they got into an argument. I'm not here to give you opinions all the time. I'm happy to provide some opinions. For those of you who want to just judge me, though, those opinions are going to be worthless anyway. You're either going to stick me in your chamber or you're going to exclude me from your chamber. And unfortunately, if you're here to do that, you're the ones who think I am boring. So I gave you my boring list. I ask, what do I think about my boring list? And I go, I think that's actually a really cool list. I mean, those are real cultural issues. And let's be real. How many clinical counselors, professionals in the industry of working with individuals, couples, families, working with people, holding them in their space through trauma, through addiction, how many people in my industry, the area where I should be really, really careful, are willing to address these topics? Not many. The vast majority of them remain silent. And that's a problem. If you're a counselor out there and you listen to this, here's my encouragement to you: get your crap together. Because these topics, if you can't address them and address them publicly like I have been doing, and remain unbiased in your presentation, not affirming, which goes against your ethical duties. When somebody comes in and says, I'm depressed, I don't affirm. What I do instead is I assess. So the solution here is for you to ask what you think. What do you think about religious extremism? What do you think about cultural judgment? Is it damaging or not damaging? What do you think about violence? What do you think about relational manipulation or AI or reality fantasy? What do you think about trans women in sports? What do you think about weaponization of phobia, which happens on a daily basis? What do you think about love and empathy? What do you think? If you want something to change, stop coming at me as if I'm the one who's boring. When you see your echo chamber, you see your reflection. because of my podcast. Matter of fact, I'd even venture to say that if you think I am boring, most likely it's because you run right into somebody who actually reflects back our cultural issues, our psychological issues, and says, what are you doing about it? And if you're doing nothing, you go, that's boring. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share this with as many people as you would like. Let's get all these boring topics out there to folks. I appreciate you listening. If you've made it this far, you are awesome. And I very, very much appreciate you, whether you liked the message or not. I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Take a look at the details of our podcast for links to our website and other helpful information.